Yeah.
So, good evening. My Indonesian is not good enough, therefore I speak English. I hope you understand it. If I'm speaking too fast, not fluently enough, you can interrupt me anytime. And it's a workshop, not only a presentation, even very recorded. That means if you have questions, you can ask them anytime. So the background, the material which I'm presenting here, it's basically compiled, or the basics for it was written by Roger Libby. I worked before with him together at this company. It's a publishing house. It's called Mitternachtsruf. It's translated. It's in German in Switzerland, Swiss German area we're living. It's called Midnight Call, translated in English. They are all in the German-speaking area. He lives in Basel. This publishing house is in Dübendorf, all the German-speaking area of Switzerland. This is basically, this publishing house is one of the leading prophecy publishing houses which occupy with prophecy. I will come in more detail later about that. Then I'm running a website. I'm running a blog, basically. It's not a big thing. It's called Swiss Apologetics and Research Ministries. Yeah, it's like Billy, I'm running a blog. And I was the one who compiled all this presentation and translated it into English. Originally, I had it only in German. Then I'm working together with the head of Vigisects. This is an organization in French. They are fighting against cults and sects today, and they're getting more and more. So they have a lot of to do. So, topic today is a nation returns home. Now, maybe you imagine what kind of nation would it be? I'm speaking about Israel. It's Israel and the Middle East conflict from God's perspective. Because usually if you look in the news, it's always human perspective. There's mentioned Israel is an apartheid state. We have to hate Israel. They take all the land away from the Palestine people. And we are sometimes as Christians, we don't know how to react. It's difficult. And I will give you now the perspective of God. Not I will tell you things, but God. I will quote God, basically, about that topic. Maybe it's amazing what you will see. I'm not sure if you can make it in 1 hour and 15, which is normally the duration of your meeting. Probably we can continue next time or later, or make 2-3 sessions out of it, because it's a lot of very interesting topic. Sadly, nobody speaks about that anymore in the world. Nobody cares about it. And just to give you one example, you know the country of Egypt, where Moses led the Israel people out. The original people in Egypt are the Copts. This is Cleopatra. Cleopatra, their descendants, they're called the Copts. Today, there are only 10% in Egypt, and they're getting persecuted. This is the population. These are the people. They're always, if you hear in Egypt, there is a bomb in a church exploding, it's always these guys, because they are Christian. They're like Orthodox Christian, but they're Christian. And the rest, 90% of Egypt, are Arabs, which came into Egypt. They took their country away. They're persecuting the local people, which originally inhabited this country. And nobody in this world scream about it. Nobody even know about it. So, but there's a small country besides. It's called Israel. And it's a drama. It's like every day in the news. And especially last 2-3 weeks, there was all this bombing, rocket firing. Then you maybe saw it really every day in the news with the bad attitude behind. So let's go in detail. So what we are speaking about, 1 second, I have to look if I can page down. It doesn't work at the moment. You give me the permission, Billy, so it should normally work. No, it's coming. Yeah, it was late. Okay. So we are speaking through God. I want to quote what is God speaking, not what is my name is Rudolf Klassen. I'm the husband of Demita. What I'm speaking, I want to quote what God is speaking. God is speaking through prophets. Yeah. You maybe know today, there's a feedback, maybe you have to put Demita, but okay. Maybe you today know the office of prophet. There are a lot of charismatic churches, and there's hordes of modern churches. They have their own prophets. Yeah, all over the place. TV, you can see prophets. but I'm speaking about the Old Testament prophets. Okay, and I hope every one of you have a Bible, because we are reading from the Bible mostly. It's not what Rudy is saying, my name. We are looking what God is saying, and God is giving us the message through his prophets, not the fake prophets you can see today a lot of times, but through his real prophets. And that I always like if people reading then the original Bible, they can read the Indonesian. I put always I make copy paste of all chapters, verses from the Bible, which I want to discuss about. It's copy paste. I use the NIV Bible because it's easy to understand, but sometimes it's not literal enough. Then I switch to the King James Bible because it's sometimes not precise enough. So does the office of prophet, just a forerunner before we start with the real topic, does the office of prophet still exist today? So they are more than self-appointed spokesman for God. The answer is a no-brainer. They say, obviously it's existing. Every church needs a prophet. Yeah, you can be trained as a prophet. You can learn to be a prophet. And these prophets have today, we have like Kenneth Copeland, he's calling himself a prophet, and they are the whole bunch of it. Yeah, it's all over in the TV, in the Christian TV. These prophets have a big influence. They have a lot of big follower. But we're starting just with one verse from the Bible. And this verse is basically showing that these are no prophets today. So I read from Hebrews 1:1-2. This is NIV, as I mentioned before. If it's not mentioned otherwise, it's always NIV. Long ago, at many times, in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son. So, based on that, there was the word spoken in the past tense used. So, God said, until Jesus in the Old Testament, there were prophets. There were the apostles, which follow Jesus, and which you can call maybe still prophets. There were some prophecies, a lot of prophecies in the New Testament as well. But after this, they are not prophets anymore. He used the past tense, spoken. The great thing today is these prophets in the Old Testament, they were living like 2,000 years before Christ. And they spoke about the future. Obviously, if they saw the future and they saw a plane, they could not describe a plane because they didn't have a word plane. They have to describe it in another way. We will see how they describe it, different way. And the amazing thing is we are living today in one age in the 21st century where a lot of, not all, but a lot of prophecies were already fulfilled. So you can give the testimony for that. You can see how they're fulfilled. If I would make this presentation 100 years ago, it will be much more difficult because a lot of them would not yet be fulfilled. But in today's time, and the Bible consists, a big part of the Bible is about prophecy. So you have to remember, all false religion, sects, cults appeared because somebody got a prophecy and met an angel or God. You can see it in Mohammed, you can see it across, you can see it Buddhism, Hinduism, mostly all religion appeared like that. You can see it in the Mormon cult, Joseph Smith, an angel appeared to him and told him, forget the Bible, I will overwrite it. The modern day apostles today, the modern day prophets doing the same. They're telling, I go every day to Jesus up, he gives me the information. What they want is that they want to get you away from the Bible. Basically, their prophecies are not really working. They want to get you away from the Bible. They want to prepare you for the Antichrist. The Antichrist will not be the Antichrist. The Antichrist will be Jesus. He will tell he's Jesus. He's the returned Jesus. And so a lot of churches today, a lot of Christian movement preparing for that because a big part of the Christianity will be seduced. We come in more detail to that. And we have a lot of prophecies areas. If you're interested, you can go in this topic as well. So the real prophets, they told thousands of prophecies inside the Old Testament, which were fulfilled precisely 100 or 1,000 years later. So it's not a horoscope, which is telling you on the level, hey, something good, Billy, something good will happen to you today. You can choose what? For everyone, something good happened every day. Something bad, something good. So it's not the prophecy. The prophecy is if you write what happened in 500 years, what happened in 2,000 years. And this is getting precisely fulfilled. This is a prophecy you can see that only God can see the future, not even the devil, Lucifer. Only God can do that. You can see God is behind it. And the Bible is the only book in the world which contains prophecies. All other are not working. You can see it's created by human. There is no, it's not testified that there's a God behind. It's created by human. You have to show, you have to prove that a book you write, you follow a book that it's really written by God. And only the Bible can do that. Only the Bible can confirm that because it contains prophecies. Sadly, in all churches today, nobody speaks about it anymore. You have the modern day prophecies, which are blur, and nobody speaks anymore about his old day prophecies from the Old Testament, 2,000 years old. So our modern day prophets on the Pentecostal charismatic movement, New Apostolic Reformation, they're usually called. Don't misunderstand me, there are a lot of good Pentecostal pastors. I just speak about the general movement above, which is going on. They could not even, as for example, they could not see the Corona pandemic before. And you could see it like 1 year before. It's only 2019, you would say 2020, there will be a Corona pandemic. Nobody knew about it. Nobody told about it. Otherwise, you could prepare. And today they're saying, if you challenge them and say, hey, you call yourself a modern day prophet. Why could not foresee the pandemic? And they will tell, yeah, our success rate is only 10% or even lower. The problem is they forgot this chapter from Deuteronomy 18:22, written 700 years before Christ. But a prophet who presumes to speak in my name anything I have not commanded, or a prophet who speaks in the name of other gods, is to be put to death. They forgot about that. So if you make one wrong prophecy in the old Israel, in the Old Testament, you would be put to death. Because the reason is very easy. Regretting is not enough. If you say you're a prophet and you speak in God's name, and God can never be wrong, not one time. So if you're one time wrong, you're not a prophet, and you should put to death. People today seems to be in this modern movement, don't read this verse from the Old Testament. So let's jump in the main topic. This is just because we speak about a lot about prophecies. We will occupy with prophecies, therefore I want to have this forerunner. 2,000 years ago, there was a Messiah, Jesus, we call him the Messiah. Jesus Christ fulfilled with his first coming more than 2,000 years ago, over 300 prophecies from the Old Testament, which are very detailed, and nobody else was ever fulfilling them. The Jews know that, but the rabbis, the Pharisees knew that as well, but they still rejected him. It was a prophecy as well. God will make their eyes blind. This was Calvary outside. He came to the Jews, they rejected him, and he was crucified. If you want, we can make another session, prophecies about Jesus. Today, it's about Israel. There's well hundreds of prophecies related to the nation of Israel, written thousands or hundreds of years before Christ in the Old Testament. Let's jump to one. Billy, if you want, if you have the Bible, NIV English, or you read it in Indonesian, do you want to read that, Billy? You just share. I don't want to make a monologue. I want that everyone is speaking. And then you can see that it's really written in your Bible, and I didn't make it up. That's important because today, modern day prophets, they make a lot of things up. It's Deuteronomy 28, 63, 64, written 1,500 years before Christ. Really? You can use NIV or Indonesian one. The verses written here are NIV.
Okay, moment.
Yep. Whatever Bible you have.
Indonesian Bible.
Yeah,
is
totally fine. I cannot understand it. but I assume you read that then correctly.
So Deuteronomy 28,
63 to
64 ya.
Yep.
Iya. Seperti Tuhan bergirang karena kamu untuk berbuat baik kepadamu dan membuat kamu banyak, demikianlah Tuhan akan bergirang karena kamu untuk membinasakan dan memunahkan kamu. Dan kamu akan dicabut dari tanah kemana engkau pergi untuk mendudukinya. 64, Tuhan akan menyerahkan engkau ke antara segala bangsa, dari ujung bumi ke ujung bumi. Di sanalah engkau akan beribadah kepada Allah lain yang tidak dikenal olehmu ataupun oleh nenek moyangmu, yakni kepada kayu dan batu.
Yeah, I will repeat it on English. It's written on the screen as well. You can see it. It's shortened. It's not the whole one. You will be, it's only the most important one. You will be uprooted from the land you are entering to possess. Then the Lord will scatter you among all nations from one end of the earth to the other. Yeah, this is the prophecy. You can say, okay, Israel was already destroyed one time before, 500 years before Christ. The Babylonian came in, destroyed the second temple, and took all the Jews out. Not Israel was already disappearing. They were conquered by the Assyrians. God had only contract with David, so he let the tribes survive, Judah and Benjamin, which are tribes of David. The other tribes, the 10 tribes, were already lost. They disappeared. They were conquered by not Israel, conquered by Assyrians. They were away. So we speak 500 years before Christ, only South Israel. But the Babylonians didn't scatter them from one end of the earth to the other one. This didn't happen before. This started to happen 70 years after Christ, with the destruction of Jerusalem, the second temple. And 135 years after Christ, whole Israel was destroyed by the Romans, and they were scattered around the world. You will see. I will give you a lot of details about that. Obviously, they didn't went directly from Israel to Panama. They went probably first to neighbor countries like Turkey or Greece. But then the persecution started there as well, because God wanted his prophecies to be fulfilled. And so they moved on, and they moved on, and they moved on, and they scattered all the world. So what happens at that time? The Jewish guys, Israel, rejected the real Messiah. They crucified him. And then there were a lot of, I give you only example of the 50 most important Messiah. They appeared after him. And they are putting their bets on the wrong horse, I would say, because this Messiah were all betrayers. Like today, you have a lot of modern prophets, all betrayers. This guy here, you can see, I hope you can see my mouse. Bar Kokhba, he led Israel to destruction because Israel wanted to wait. Israel, the Jewish guys, waited for a Messiah which freed them from the Roman. The target of Jesus was not to free them from the Roman. The target of Jesus was to free us from sin. But nobody wanted to have that. So this guy came up 135 after Christ and told the Jewish guys, I will free you from the Roman. You have to follow me. We make a revolution. The Romans collected 1/4 of their total army. You can imagine how many soldiers there are. And they destroyed Israel. They make it there was no counter anymore. It was a desert. They destroyed everything. So they followed the wrong Messiah. We have to look that this doesn't happen to us today. Consequences of the rejection of the real Messiah. Billy, Leviticus 26:32, written 1,600 years before Christ. You read again in Indonesian? I will make it in German.
Okay. Leviticus 26:32.
Yeah.
Aku sendiri akan merusakkan negeri itu, sehingga musuhmu yang tinggal di situ akan tercengang karenanya.
Thank you. I read in English. I myself will lay waste the land so that your enemies who live there will be appealed. From 70 after Christ, there was devastation and desolation of the country in a process going on for centuries. Israel was looking like that Palestine. The Romans didn't want to have even the name Israel remembered. They renamed it, called it Palestine after the destruction. They called the region Palestine. So it was looking, you see the pictures, I give you examples, it was looking like that. The Bible tells it, God tells it, not I, not we. And then Billy, this was 32, we read 33, Leviticus 26, 33. Or Justin read, Justin, you can read too, you have a Bible? You can read in English if you want.
Let me read it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, 23, right?
26, 33. Leviticus 26, 33.
Yeah, 26, 33.
Yeah.
Then I will scatter you among the Gentiles, and I will unsheath the sword after you, and your land will be deserted, and your cities will be demolished.
Right. You use another translation. I used here on my screen, you see the NIV, but basically it has the same content. I will scatter you among the nations. I put every important part in green. Your land will be laid waste and cities will be lie in ruins. This is God promising 1,600 years before Christ to the Israelites after they reject the Messiah. What happened? 70 to 2,000 years after Christ, scattering among the Jewish people were scattered among 5 continents and more than 100 countries. Around 13 million were dead, alone more than 6 million during Holocaust. You see, I will scatter you among the nations, and I will draw out my sword and pursue you. So God make the revenge because they rejected the Messiah. It's an amazing story. So yeah, here. So you say, okay, we don't know because the Palestine guys saying, as the Israel came into Palestine back, it was all blooming and there was like, it was developed and there was, the Jews came and they killed us all and they took the land over. So, but we have here the prophecies of the Old Testament of God. God is writing in the Bible. So let's take an evidence from outside the Bible, how Israel was looking like. Let's say in the 19th century. In 1867, Mark Twain, I think Justin know that, maybe they read in school, Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer was at that time one of the most popular American authors. So really popular. And he was in a Christian group. Is him. This is the Christian group. It's like us. It was like a Christian group. And it's getting modern. In the 19th century, Palestine was still ruled by the Osmanic Kingdom. And you could apply for travel to Jerusalem because it was getting modern, people getting more advanced. You had big ships, no planes yet. And you can travel to the Holy Land. And especially if you are Bible-believing Christian, Mark Twain, he want to see the Holy Land, how it's looking like. So in the 19th century, in 1867, he was there. And then he wrote the book, that one, this is the Jewish version, about his experience in the Holy Land. And I quote, a desolate country whose soil is rich enough, but is giving over wholly to weeds. A silent, mournful expanse, a desolation. We never saw a human being on the whole route. So he traveled from Istanbul, I think, in Turkey, to Constantinople, I think probably it was called at that time still, or the Romans called it Constantinople. He was going to Jerusalem. We never saw a human being on the whole route, hardly a tree or shrub anywhere. Even the olive tree and the cactus, those fast friends of his wordless soul, had almost deserted the country. So the country was looking like that. Mark Twain, not a Jewish, totally independent guy, traveling, popular author, writing a book about it, traveling through Israel. So the country was Palestine at that time. The country was desolated, like promised in the prophecies. You will uproot the land. So where we headed? So the wasteland and your enemies will be appealed about it. We will lay waste, cities will lie in ruins. Mark Twain, 19th century, confirmed that. So I'm using here the KJV Bible, Ezekiel 38:8. Billy, you want to read the Indonesian version?
Okay. Moment.
I use the King James version, but you can read the Indonesian one. I hope it's because the NIV is not precise enough. I need a specific word.
You want me to read in KJV?
You can read KJV. That's totally fine. Written
Wait.
500 years before Christ, Ezekiel. Huh?
Yeah. I have KJV here in my
38:8, Billy.
So, after many days, thou shalt be visited. In the latter years, thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste. But it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them.
Thank you, Billy. So, important here, I forgot to mark it in green, in the later years. That means at the end time. Later years from God's perspective, you can call it as well end time. So at the end time, before when the end time starts, the people should be collected of all out of the nations and bring back to Israel. And they shall dwell safely. So it doesn't matter how many attacks you make today on Israel, they will be safe. God is protecting them. And they shall dwell safely, all of them. And then it was the first Messiah of Zion. The people start to collect. So basically, from the perspective, if you look at the time frame, the first coming of the Messiah, which the Jews rejected, it was a suffering Messiah who died for us. And there's a second coming of the Messiah. The Bible tells us he will come as a ruling Messiah. He will come to bring war against the devil and all his followers. And the end time is described before. It's called at the later days when the Jewish people will come back to Zion. Zion is a mountain in Israel. And this movement started 82. So based on the Old Testament prophecies, you can call end time. You can ask when the end time started. End time we know is the time before Jesus come back, second coming. When the end time started. Based on these prophecies, it started when the Israel people coming back to their nation. It started, the first movement started 82. There were always like 10,000 Jews scattered around in Palestine. There were like 300,000 Palestine living Arabs, around 10,000 before, in the beginning of the 19th century. But in 82, the big movement started. So you can call this period, based on Ezekiel, what we just read, really just read, end time. So we are living already in the end time. We don't know how long it's will going. We don't know if Jesus is coming back tomorrow in 10 years. But we know it started around 140 years ago in 82. It's the return of the Jews. They didn't come in one wave. You will see again a lot of prophecies about that. They come in different waves. I show you the waves. The ages, you will see them in more detail later, exactly timing, just to give you an impression. It's all before Jesus is coming back. So let's have a look where Israel, Jewish people, were scattered. Because the Bible said, just read, Sheila just read, in the prophecies, there have to be scattered all over the world. All over the world doesn't mean in Prague. All over the world doesn't mean in Switzerland. All over the world doesn't mean in Spain. All over the world means all over the world. So some examples where bigger Jewish community were. Dutch West Indies. It was a colony of the Netherlands, like Indonesia. This is today Curacao, beautiful islands in the Caribbean Sea. Here, big colony of Jewish people, founded in 1652. It's shortly after Columbus. Huh? They were very fast. They didn't went there for fun. At that time, there was no Caribbean Sea. There was a Caribbean Sea, but it was not for holiday like today. At that time, it was undeveloped area, and then you get bitten by snakes or whatever. So they have to be there running for their lives because somebody is persecuting them. Therefore, they end up in this area. Suriname. Suriname, you know, is a colony of Netherlands as well. Today, Suriname. Ruud Gullit came from Suriname, the football player from Netherlands. French West Indies, today Cayenne, 1659, all in the 17th century. Then they came first to South America, 1730. They came first to Mississippi in Missouri, 1890. They came first to Anatolia, it's today Turkey, 1820. You see, I have always a map, and there's always an arrow showing in which area of the world this is, if you don't know it precise. So you could see this is all here Caribbean Sea, and this is here scattered. Let's go further. Grand Islands, Niagara Falls, here above. Crimean is Crim, it's the area which Putin recently conquered, belongs before to Ukraine. It's here. Cyprus, 1841, 1822 was Niagara Falls. Cyprus, there was a movement 1880 to 1902. It's not far from Israel. It's a small island in the Mediterranean Sea. Argentina, 1892. That's a great story. Argentina, you know, they were the top guys of Hitler, which arranged the Holocaust. The guy which was arranging, coordinating all the logistics for the Holocaust to kill 6 million Jews, it was Heinrich, it was Eichmann, Adolf Eichmann. And he escaped to Argentina. He didn't know that there's a big Jewish community. And his son went to a school. The top 5 Nazis, like top 3, Hitler, Goebbels, they killed themselves. But Eichmann was one of the top 5. He escaped to Argentina. He hid there under a different name, but his family still have the name Eichmann. And he used the Spain's Argentinian name. And then his son was going to a school, and like Justin, yeah, maybe age like Justin. And in the school, in the same class, there was a Jewish girl. And she told her father, I think that in my class is a boy. He wants to go out with me. He is called Eichmann. And the father get information to Israel, and the Mossad get, at that time, Argentina had a radical Nazi, not Nazi, but like Trump, like a fascist regime. They protected all the Nazis from Germany. Therefore, a lot of escape there. And the Mossad get this Eichmann out from Argentina because of this information, and is the only trial in Israel in the 60s, and he was hanged later. It's the only guy which was ever hanged in Israel because he killed 6 million Jewish people. And it's funny, it shows there were Jewish people living, and this is Jewish people even identified the Nazis, which nobody else could find in the world. Nobody knew where they disappeared. Big colony of Jewish people was in Kenya. They have to flee from Uganda, and they went to Kenya. Brazil, Recife is at the Atlantic coast. Today, popular holiday place in Brazil. 1904, the movement started there. Then Southern Mesopotamia, it's called today South Iraq. There were two movements. In the 5th century before Christ, Israel was conquered, brought to Iraq. Nehemiah, you remember the story, could go back. They built up Jerusalem again. They built up Israel. But some people still lived, some Jewish people still lived in Iraq. They didn't went out. But there was a second movement. Again, 1908 to Iraq. Madagascar, a small island. This was the original idea of the Nazis. They thought, do we want to kill the Jews, or do we want to bring them all to Madagascar? It was an idea to discuss, but then they decided that they want to kill them. because it was too complicated for them. To bring them to Madagascar, they were afraid all the oceans were controlled by the British. They tell it later in the Nuremberg tribunals, but they're told it maybe as excuse, maybe they wanted to kill them from the beginning. So, Amur River between Russia and China, big Jewish community. Australia, Billy, not so far from Indonesia. I hear even Indonesia, there are some big colonies in Surabaya. This is Melbourne. Vietnam, 1946, big movement there. So, we read now Jeremiah, Billy. Let's read somebody. Sri Moriani, you want to read something? Sri, if you're okay.
Yeah.
Jeremiah 31.
Jeremiah 31.
10. You can read it in Indonesian as well. Jeremiah 31:10. It's written 600 years before Christ. Yeah.
Okay. It is Jeremiah 31:10.
Yeah.
It is written here.
Yeah.
Listen to the word of the Lord, O Gentiles, and announce it amid the islands that are far away, and say, whoever has scattered Israel will gather him, and he will guard him as a shepherd guards his flock.
Yeah, he's a shepherd. It's also a symbol from Jesus. Huh? He's a shepherd. He watched over his nation. So this never happened before in history. It will never happen again. You take a nation 2000 years ago, you scatter them around the world, as we saw really around the world, Indonesia, China, Russia, wherever. You scatter them. There's a prophecy about it, and you bring them back. You bring them all back, and you gather them, and I will watch over his flock like a shepherd. So today is watching them. I don't know if you can destroy it. It doesn't mention that they are scattered again. So now they are staying together. So just to give you a number, from 1882, this was the first movement started, to 2008, over 3 million Jews from around 5 continents and over 100 countries returned to Israel. Today in Israel, 2021, we have more than 9 million citizens. It's like comparable to Switzerland, the size. Yeah, these people, they came from all over the world. We will see more details. We read Justin, Ezekiel 34:13, written 500 years before Christ. To give you some more prophecies about that. Can you hear me, Justin? Now shall take Billy.
Yes,
take it over.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
I will read it in Indonesian.
No problem. Totally fine.
Aku akan membawa mereka keluar dari tengah bangsa-bangsa dan mengumpulkan mereka dari negeri-negeri dan membawa mereka ke tanahnya. Aku akan mengembalakan mereka di atas gunung-gunung Israel, di alur-alur sungainya, dan di semua tempat kediaman orang di tanah itu.
I could understand Gunung, this mountain, huh?
Yeah.
So it's the right verse. I will bring them out from the nations and gather them from the countries, and I will bring them into their own land. It's not mentioned the land of the Palestine. I will bring them into their own land. This is God. We're not listening to Rudy. We don't listening to Abbas, the Palestine leader, or Hamas, or Netanyahu. We listening today to God. And I will bring them into their own land. I will pasture them out on the mountains of Israel, in the ravines, in all the settlements in the lands. So it's mentioned here from the countries, all the countries, from a lot of countries. It's definitely not the return from Babylon or Persia. Because in the 500 years before Christ, Israel was destroyed the first time, second temple, they're going to Babylon. Later, Babylon was conquered by Persia, and Nehemiah could return. You remember the stories, and build up Israel again, build up Jerusalem. It's not that event, because it's mentioned always countries, not country, and all over the world. So it has to be a second event. And we are today, if you would read that 200 years ago, we would not understand it. Today we are reading it, we see Israel, we see where they came from, over 3 million people all around the world. So it's mentioned, Billy, Psalm, or let's take Dimitar, you want to read something? See, I need 4 screens here. Psalm 126:4. I put myself quiet.
Psalm 126:4. Restore our fortunes, bring back our captives like streams in the Negev.
Thank you. So, what is the meaning of that verse? Streams in the Negev is looking like that. That means he will bring back not all Israel people, Jewish people together. He will then bring them back in small chunks, in small streams. Yeah, this is the streams in Negev. They're looking like that. This would be, for example, a stream in Judea, in desert of Judea. It's one big stream. So you can see it on the picture here. It's one stream, big one. So if you would say, I bring them with one even back, he would say like a stream in the desert of Judea, but he said like a stream in the Wadi Brooks in the Negev. Psalm, David wrote about that. Yeah. Let's look on the migration waves so that we can see this really happened, what David was prophesying. Let's have a small look on the migration. So the first wave of migration, 1882 to 1903, around 25,000 Jews from Russia, around 10,000 Jews from Yemen. I will go later on the background, why they were. Nobody want to migrate. At that time, we read it from Mark Twain. Israel was a desert. If you ask some Jewish guy who living in Prague, do you want to go back to the desert in Palestine? They say, oh, no. Prague is beautiful. I don't want to go back to the desert. You know, there's nothing. Yeah? I will not go there. So there, it was always small waves, and there was always some small event happen. I will go in much more detail on that. Just give you some numbers about this. Small rivers, how we call it in English, the Wadi Brooks in the desert, in the Negev, small streams in the Negev. Around 25,000 Jews from Russia, 10,000 Jews from Yemen. Second wave of immigration, 1904 to 1914. Around 40,000 Jews mainly from Russia, some from Poland. Third wave of immigration, 1919 to 1923, around 35,000 Jews, not millions. It's small waves, as you see on the numbers. Around 35,000 people from Russia, 53%, Lithuania and Romania, 36%, rest from other Eastern European countries, as Czech Republic, Prague, 800 from Western European countries. Fourth wave of migration, 1924 to 1931, around 67,000 from Poland and Soviet Union. Somebody want to answer? You have to make it quiet. Fifth wave of immigration, 1932 to 1938. After Hitler's takeover, around everyone in Germany, everyone ran for their life. Hitler could kill so many people, still so many Jews in Germany, because a lot of these Jews living in Germany, they didn't know that they are Jews. They were fully integrated in the country. They served for Germany in the First World War. They were generals or officers, really high ranked. And Hitler started to kill these people because he wanted their money, because they were really powerful. And the Jews, which didn't have anything to lose, not a big company, not a big shopping center, not big houses, they maybe migrated already to Palestine. Even it was very difficult because at that time, after the First World War, Palestine was controlled by the British mandate. And the British didn't want to have any Jews there. They didn't want to trouble the Arabs which living there. So it was very difficult, the migration there, but didn't know where to go. Nobody wanted to have them. They could not go in any country. Nobody of them wanted to go to desert area. So there was a bigger movement toward 50,000. Then the big one, Aliyah is always Elijah is always called to return to your home nation in Hebrew. So the Jewish guy told to you, I make my Elijah. That means he's going back to he's migrating to his home country. And there was a big Elijah move. It's mostly illegal, as I just mentioned, during the Second World War, despite massive obstacles from the British occupation force in Palestine. So, what I mentioned before, 1948 to 2021, mass immigration from all over the world, from all 5 continents. Only in the period of 15 May 1947 until 31 December 1952, Jews immigrated from over 70 countries. I have here typo. 70 countries into the country of their forefathers. After the nation of Israel was established 47, 48. Most using the maritime route. They came with ships. Here you see examples, 1948 to 1957. Mass immigration from Arab countries surrounding Israel, around 650,000 Israel Jews. They have to run for their life because the Arabs would kill them. I come more detail later on that. 1948 to 1970, mass immigration from Europe, 557,000. 1984, 1985, Operation Moses. We'll come more in detail later on that. 11 Ethiopian Jews coming home to Israel. So the Israelites, they're looking dark, looking black. We saw them already one day. 1985, Operation Zaba. 1,000 Ethiopian Jews are flown out. 1989, mass immigration from Soviet Union CS countries. Because 89, remember Gorbachev, the Soviet Union breakdown. There was no communism. Czech Republic was freed. Yeah, a lot of countries started new. The Soviet Union fall apart. And there was a mass migration. 1 million Jews came from there. Operation Salomon, 14,800 Ethiopian Jews and returning home to Israel, and so on and so on. So let's say what the Bible says about it. Very interesting part now. 19th century is the period called officially the period of Zionism. Jews shall return to Palestine. That was like a first movement started. Before the Jewish guys not even thought about going back to Palestine. It was too dangerous, not interesting. So the first guys there was a first movement started, nationalism between them, Zionist movement. They start about thinking that if you have money about that, if you have money, if you have a lot of ownings, you will not go to Palestine. It was desert area. But maybe if you have nothing else to lose, if you get persecuted, maybe you would start to think about it. And the Bible exactly describes that. As I can say, do I have somebody else there? Yeah, there was Rachel and Elise. These are the daughters of Billy, huh?
Yes.
You have a Bible.
Yeah.
You can read Indonesian, no problem. Jeremiah 16. 15 to 16. Written 600 years before Christ.
But in that time they will affirm them with, I swear as surely as the Lord lives, who delivered the people of Israel from the land of the north and from all the other lands where he had banished them. At that time, I will bring them back to the land I gave their ancestors. But for now, I, the Lord, say, I will send many enemies who will catch these people like fishermen. After that, I will send others who will hunt them out like hunters from all the mountains, all the hills, all the crevices in the rocks.
Thank you very much. You can see there's something written with north in a lot of countries. I banished them before. This was the result because they rejected the real Messiah, Jesus. He banished them all over the world, and I will restore them back to the land I give their ancestors. He doesn't ask Arafat, he doesn't ask Abbas, he doesn't ask Netanyahu, nobody. God is writing that. God is speaking that. I will give them the land of the ancestors. And first, very interesting, I will send for many fishermen. And after that, it will catch them. After that, I will send for many hunters, and they will hunt them down on every mountain. Maybe if you read that, you don't understand what is written there. I will explain it to you. The first phase is the catching phase. The catching phase, God let the Israel decide for themselves. The Jewish people scattered around the world, they could decide for themselves if they want to come or not back to their countries from their ancestors. The second phase, if they don't want to come, he will send many hunters and hunt them down until their coming. So the catching phase started in the 19th century, 1882 before. There's like small bunch of people came. There was Moses Montefiore, was a popular guy, 1784, lived 1784 to 1885. He sponsored the return of the Jews. So it's not about Jews came and killed Palestine people, took the land away, and you will see it later much more in detail. He sponsored it. That means they bought the land. It was ruled before in the 19th century by the Osmanic Kingdom, Turkey today. That means it's a Muslim country. And you cannot just come and take land away from those people. The Turkey have to allow you, the Osmanic Kingdom has to allow you to buy land. You have to ask, listen, I have your money. I want to go to this land. I want to go to this desert. I want to buy land and I want to live there. And then if they like, they allow you. If they don't like, they don't allow you. The British did the same after the First World War, until the Second World War. So the Moses Montefiore was a big sponsor. So he gave the Jewish people which want to return the financial support to buy land. They have to ask Turkey for permission. There's nobody just came and settled somewhere down. Otherwise, they would hunt you. Maybe you can do it somewhere in the desert, but you cannot do it anywhere. But the whole country looked like the desert. Yeah? We read before in the Old Testament how Israel will look like: ruins, desert, desolated. Then the movement started again with Moses Hess, living 1812, 1874. He wrote a popular, excellent work about Jews returning home to the nations called Rome and Jerusalem. And then people read it and got the idea, let's go back there. But if you live in Prague, you have a beautiful city, you own a shop, Billy, and you have 1,000 employees. You don't go to Palestine and live in the desert. Yeah. So this is the catching phase. God gave them a chance. And then it switched to a hunting phase, as we just read in the Old Testament. Not many Jews went there, only some thousand. And then God switched it, as predicted 600 years before Christ, to a hunting phase. Hunting phase means you have to go. You have to run for your life. So from 1882 to 2021, persecution, discrimination is the main reason that Jews are returning to their home nation. They cannot go anywhere else. God is shutting down everything else. They have to go back to Palestine, that he is fulfilling his prophecies. This is written by God, and God is never wrong. To give you an example, therefore you know why the first movement, 1882, came from Russia. The Tsar Alexander III in Russia started persecution of the Jews a long time before Hitler. Then there was the Russian Revolution and persecution in Ukraine from 1970. Russian Revolution, all the communism started. Yeah? Like Czechia was before Czech Republic was communism country. You're not allowed to believe in a God. You have to believe in a party. Yeah? Like North Korea, probably today, Cuba. And the Jews are always on the radar because they have no army. They cannot defend themselves. And they're always the minority, and you can easily persecute them. And they're peaceful. They're usually very peaceful people. You can easily persecute them. Then the big persecution, which we mentioned before, with 6 million Jewish people dead by the NS regime, run by Hitler, Mussolini in Italy, all over Europe, started 1933. Then 1948, as Israel was established as a modern country, persecution in Arab countries. So the hunting phase, like predicted in Jeremiah, is a miracle. Jeremiah wrote it 600 years before Christ. We are speaking here about 600 years plus. Yeah, it's like 2,500 years. Huh? Prediction in the future. So one interesting part mentioned here, which Rochelle or Elisa, I don't know which one of you was reading it, is mentioned here. A very interesting part again. Out of the countries and out of the land of the north. Of the north. It has a meaning, huh? Of the north. So what is the meaning? There's Jeremiah 31:8. This is later even mentioned again. So now is Arman, Ratna, you want to read? You can read in Indonesian. Jeremiah 31:8, written 600 years before Christ.
Directly from the PowerPoint? Is it okay?
You can, yeah, but if you read from the PowerPoint, then maybe I manipulated it, you know. Therefore, I like always, if you read, but you can trust me, I can make a copy paste, okay? But you can read directly from it if you have one. Otherwise, you can read from the PowerPoint. Is NIV, it's copy paste. I went to all the chapters and I make verses and make copy paste one to one.
Wait.
But you know how the Jews before in the Old Testament, how they, at that time, there were no copy machines. You know, Justin goes to university, he has a copy machine, he just copy things. Yeah. And in the Old Testament, there was no copying machine. But they, Jews created one mechanism. It's like, how it's called in English, like proof number, check number. You count the amount of words of the Old Testament, Torah. You count the amount of words, include spaces. If there's one character too much, they're not allowed to burn the Torah, the Old Testament, but they have to dig it in the earth. Okay, so much they were, so precise they were in the copying their books. So as Muhammad told 600 years after Christ, they forgot about me in the prophecies. There was no prophecy about him. But he said, yeah, they cut it out. It's impossible because they have this copy mechanism which I just described. Okay, you can continue. You can read.
Okay, Jeremiah 31 verse 8. Wait a second. Behold, I will bring them from the north country and gather them from the farthest parts of the earth. Among them, the blind and the lame, the pregnant woman, and she who is in labor together. A great company, they shall return home.
Amazing, amazing. I will bring them from the land of the north and gather them from all ends of the earth. So we have to go in every direction of the earth. Among them will be blind, as you read, and lame, expected mothers and women in labor. A great throng will return, not 5 people, but a big amount of people. So, it's your husband beside you. He can read Isaiah 49:12, written 800 years before Christ. It's Arman, huh?
He is not here. I will just continue.
You talk. Sorry. Okay.
He is here and there because we just came.
Okay.
Okay. So I just read it from the PowerPoint. Is it okay?
Yeah, no problem. It's NIV. Okay.
Yeah. See, they will come from afar. Some from the north, some from the west, some from the region of Aswan.
Okay. Then we can continue. Isaiah 43, it's just a jump. 5 to 6, 8, written 800 years before Christ. You can just continue. You can read directly from the PowerPoint.
Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bring your children from the east and gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not hold them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory, whom I formed and made.
So God doesn't ask for our opinion. Huh? He doesn't ask first Billy if they can come back, or Abbas, or the Hamas leader, or Khomeini. He doesn't ask. God say, I will bring them back from the east, from the west, from the north, from the south, all over the world. So if you look on the map, our world map, you look at Israel, that's all about this very small piece here. The whole world is fighting today about a small piece of land. You can see how many places are in this world, and everyone discussing this small is upset about what is going on in this area. You can see if you go up most to the north, if you just make a move up, you can see my cursor. Huh? I'll move it. If you just go straight up, Billy, which country is that? Justin?
Sorry,
Justin?
what was the question?
Yeah, Justin, you are good in geography, huh?
I think so.
Yeah? Israel is here, it's correct?
Yeah.
You see my cursor?
Yeah.
If I go to the north of Israel,
yes.
Which country is that?
Russia.
Very good.
Okay.
From the utmost north, this is Russia, this biggest country on earth. The assembling of all Jews across the world started in a country in the utmost north. So it started even there, the persecution of the Tsar. In the first decades, mainly Jews from countries in the utmost north, Russia plus Poland, returned home. The first 4 Aliyahs coming back happened 1882, 1932 from Russia. So here you have the migration. This is the first settlers coming down. Like this, they are looking. They settle down, they bought the land, they settle down in the desert, and they are farmers. They're just farming in the desert. Yeah, because we read in the Old Testament, it was all ruins and deserts. Yeah. So, second wave of immigration, 1904 to 1914, around 40,000 mainly from Russia, some from Poland. Third wave of immigration from the north, around 35,000 mainly from Russia. Fourth wave of immigration, 1942 to 1931, around 80,000 from Poland and Soviet Union. In the 1970s, the Soviet Union allowed again immigration to Israel. Between 1972 and 1973, around 100,000 Jews returned from Soviet Union to Israel. From 1988, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, more than 1 million Jews returned to Israel. So, yeah, we make one first. Yeah. Yeah, Jeremiah 8, we read that. Jeremiah 31:8, we read that before. And there's an interesting sentence. So I will bring you back from the land of the north, and great tongue will return. That means in great amount. Again, the prophecy is precise. Around 1.3 million Jews returned from Russia, Soviet Union, CIS countries. The biggest amount of Israel people, Jewish people in Israel, are from Russia. So you can see Jeremiah, 600 years before Christ, he mentioned it already. And this exactly happened. You can see, we will finish now 15 after 8. Yeah, I think you finish now your Bible study. Just one last verse from Zechariah 2:10. I'll read it. Written 500 years before Christ. Come, come, flee from the land of the north. So you can see it across the Old Testament. All this prophesies. Like I told you before, this prophecies. Like I told you before, there is no other book in this world. There is no other written which can do that. If somebody knows that, he has to be God. As mentioned before, the first Elijah happened from 1882 to 1903. 25,000 Jews fled from Russia as a result of the anti-Semitic persecution between 1882 to 1881 to 1882. As the amount of immigrants nearly dried up at the end of the first Elijah, another anti-Semitic persecution started, and they ran again because they didn't want to go to Palestine. There was a persecution by the Tsar in Russia. And so after the persecution stopped, the people stopped to migrate because they wanted to live in Russia. It was a nice life. And then there was again a persecution. Because you remember the verses from before? Jeremiah, I will hunt you from every mountain on this earth, from wherever you are. And this initiated the second Elijah from 1904 to 1914, which brought again thousands of Jews into the land of their forefathers. The third Elijah was initiated by the Russian Revolution, 1917, and post-war persecution inside the Ukraine. I think this is all for our session today. Questions? You have questions, information, add-ons?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rudy. And now we have opportunity to ask Rudy. Maybe some of you want to ask something about this. And actually, this presentation will take about 3 hours or more. Yeah.
So yes, that's correct. Because Billy, if I make it in it's all about details, because you can prove it only that the prophecies are correct. It's about details. God is so precise. He wants details. I have to give you exactly the translation, exactly the word. It's about details. It's not this blur prophecies you get today from the so-called prophets or the whatever people tell you today. It's about details. And if I go into details, Billy, it takes long. That's the problem, you know, because I let you read the verses by yourself, and then we're jumping on all the details. I prepared all the numbers. You get from me later this presentation. After we finish, you will get it as PowerPoint. You can spread it further. Important for me, I'm not getting paid for that. It's my beside activity. I was one of these Russian Jews. I was one of them, but I didn't end in Palestine. I didn't end up in Switzerland, but I was one of them. I was born in Russia as well. So I want to share with you our history, my history, and that these people, the rumors that spread about these people, they are mostly not correct. You have to just to visit the most. There are weird people in every country. There are weird people on Palestine side. There are weird people on Israel side. There are groups in Israel. They say kill all the Arabs. But I will go in much more detail in the next presentation about that, Billy. I want a fair point of view on these people, and I want to show you the information from God, what God is writing about them, not human. Because we can think whatever we want. We can hate Jewish people. Yeah, we can reject the country of Israel. We can say give it back to the Palestine. But God is behind these prophecies, and we are nothing against Him. If He say it will happen, it happened, and this happened all. These prophecies were written, that you read today, were written 500,000 years before Christ, most of them, and they get fulfilled exactly like that.
Yeah. So,
yeah, Billy.
Anybody want to ask, Rudy? Maybe Juan or Sri, or Justin, or Ratna.
Don't be afraid, or you can next time. You have next second, and you can think about it. And I cannot send you today the presentation because then it's not interesting. You will come next time because you know already everything. So I will send it.
Are you not finished yet, or?
No, it's in the middle. We are somewhere in the middle.
In the middle. So okay,
we are finished for today.
Finish, then only we can ask you.
Only if you tell. Yeah, exactly. I told it. Only if you want to rumble on until midnight today, then we can finish.
But today,
it's so much information.
I'm thinking this is only the beginning, right?
Yeah, it's only the beginning. Yeah.
This is the first part.
I have to go in details because the whole thing is about details. The big question is, did the Jews bought the land? Just small details, or did they kill the Arab people and take the land away? It's a lot of small details, and for God, it's all about small details. Yeah? In the prophecies, it's about the precise words, and therefore I go through all the precise words. I tell you the numbers of people which migrated, that you can see it's all small chunks. I show you the number migrated from Russia. You can see the biggest amount came from Russia, as it mentioned in Jeremiah. The biggest amount came from the north. At that time, as Jeremiah wrote it 600 years before Christ, there was no Russia. So he can say only from the north. I don't know which country this will be, but somehow there was no country yet. It will be from the north. You can think about your question, and next time you can ask them as well. It's not a problem.
Yeah, so we have, today we have the first part actually from Rudy, and Rudy has finished the presentation of the first part. So we will have another meeting of this, but now we have opportunity to ask based on the presentation until the end of this slide. Yeah. So Arman, you can ask if you have something.
So was it something new for you, or was just for my interest? What is something new for you, the information, or you knew already everything what I mentioned?
For me, it's not too new actually. I knew it from some news and people.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but
the details. Oh, I hope I could show you more
you
details.
give the details. Yes.
I give more details.
More details.
So you knew it high level, but then like this catching and hunting phase is amazing. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing because the Jews will not go from Europe. They will never go to Palestine. It's desert. So he created the Nazis. God established the Nazi regime with Hitler to get their task was to persecute the Jews. Even they killed 6 million, but 6 million could run away.
Yeah, including the catastrophe in Spain, I think.
As well, yeah, as well. Spain. Okay. So there was a Spain. There was a city in Spain. It's in Spain was a city. They renamed it last year. The city was called in Spain, killed the Jews. Until last year, they renamed it. It's from the Catholic persecution in the 16th century. Sorry,
okay,
Bill.
From the Jews' point of view, what they will think they all gathering in Israel, what they are waiting for.
What they're waiting for, yeah.
Yes.
The most Jews in Israel, the biggest city is Tel Aviv. The most Jews today, they are not religious. They don't know these details. You have the Orthodox Jews, which are very much in religion. They know the Old Testament by heart. They know every verse. They know about that. Probably they know it of that, but they still don't see the Messiah, because you have all the prophecies to the Messiah as well. But God told until the end of time, he will make them blind. The most Israel citizens, I mean, 1/3 of Israel citizens are Arabs, you know. I mean, there may be only 20 Jews living in Arab countries in Egypt. There's no Jews in Arab countries, but there's 1/3 of I will tell you next time in more detail, 1/3 of Israel are Arab people. They have their own party. They have their own representative in the parliament. You know, that means it's not like the Jews hunting them, you know, they have their freedom in Israel. And the most Israel, they are secular today. That means they don't believe in anything. They want only same problem like in the Western world, like in Prague. There's no religion. You just believe in money. That's the sad. You can see in Tel Aviv, there's this gay parade. These people are totally open living stuff. It's nothing to do with the prophecies of the Bible. And it's mentioned as well, there are prophecies in the Bible which mention that at the end of times, again, another phase which not started yet, but it started yet already. Yeah, I can tell you that. They will return to believe in God. They will not be non-religious anymore, communists, atheists. They will start to believe in God again. I can tell you that. 20 years ago in Jerusalem, there was not one Messianic church. Messianic church is a Christian church, like you have it in Prague, but for Jewish people going inside, the Jewish believer. And 20 years ago in Jerusalem, there was not one. Today, you find every corner one. Every street in Jerusalem you go, you find Messianic churches. So in 20 years, a lot of happened, but it's still the minority. But you see the movement. I know a lot of Jewish people, Messianic Jewish people, like I do these presentations, and they make their work, and this presentation is going to the Jewish people as well. And then they realize, like last week, I did a presentation. I didn't know there was one woman, she was Jewish, and she didn't like the country of Israel. She thought she's Jewish, she's Israeli, but she lives in Switzerland, and she hated Israel. Said they are so bad. She's Christian. She hated them. So they took all the land away. And after this presentation, she told me, Rudy, thank you. It let her reconnect again with her country. So we hope with these presentations, we're waking not only up the people outside Israel, that you're not following the wrong messiahs, the Antichrist, but even Jewish people waking up and following and see all these prophecies and following their God and hopefully recognize Jesus as their Messiah. Could I answer your question? It was a little bit long.
Yeah, but actually I just want to, because from our point of view, the Jewish point of view is different with the Christian point of view. When they
that's right. That's right.
So
yeah, if they're messianic, they have the New Testament. They believe in the New Testament. If they're not messianic, they believe only in the Old Testament, the Torah.
Okay.
Some of them believing only in the Genesis, the first books of Moses. You know, they're different. They're different sects as well. They're different. There's so many movements. Every time you tell something about Israel, you can see in Israel they have the last 2 years. They have like 5 elections because the country is not. The country is so mixed up. There are so many people from so many different backgrounds. The biggest party has only a percentage of 15%, maybe. Therefore, Netanyahu needs always like 20 parties to make a coalition to make a government. So there are so many opinions. There are so many sects inside this country, so many streams inside it.
Okay, Justin, maybe you have. Sorry, Pak Arman, you still have...
No, just I think it's enough. Maybe the next term then.
Okay. So Justin, maybe you have, because I saw you unmute.
Oh yeah. I'm just a little bit curious. Aren't some of these verses are prophecies for the return of the Jews from Babylonia?
Exactly,
Or
Justin. Yeah.
or does it also
yeah.
is
It's a point.
for like okay.
It's a good point. Okay, 1 second. Babylonia is not in the utmost north. Huh? So just one example. Then mention from the east, from the west, north and south. Babylonia is only in the east. It's not from every direction. Then some from the north, some from the east, the same one. Then Justin, I gather them from all ends of the earth. Is Babylonia the end of the earth? And all ends of the earth. Totally. Babylonia was one area. This was the first I mentioned before. This was the destruction of the second temple. And then they returned, and they were not scattered around the world. They were scattered only in Babylonia or Persia, only in this area, this very specific location. But this prophecy is just mentioned, gather them from the ends of the earth, from all countries, scattered all around all countries. I will send you the presentation. You can go through that. And it's like everyone which I quote, everyone we read is always mentioned. Every direction is earth, from each direction. I will go in the next presentation. I give you already one example before where they end up. This was at the beginning. Remember here, but we will go much more in detail. You see here, this is all ends of the world. This is here east. We will go much more detail on that one. This is west, Caribbean. This is west, middle. This is west, middle. This is south. This is east, south. This is completely east. So you see, it's like the prophecies. I will scatter you everywhere, Justin. This never happened before. Before it was only Babylonia and Persia, 2 countries, nothing else.
Okay.
Could I answer your question?
Yes.
Them out from the nations, all nations, and gather them from the countries. Ezekiel, 500 years before Christ. So this is not matching. Yeah? This is a good point. You have exactly this. I want that you think about it and you challenge it. We know that like Israel has to build the 3rd temple as well. You know, before the Antichrist will be the guy, has to be Jewish guy, which will sit later in the temple, and they will think it's the Messiah. And they will again, you know, remember this 50 Messiahs that I show you? Will be one of them. 1 second, go back. This one here. Will be one of them. But they have to build the 3rd temple. One of the prophecies. This is not a Zeri. If you want, we can jump in another time on that one. The problem is only the 3rd temple. It's where today the Al-Aqsa Mosque is above it. So you can imagine if they crack down the Al-Aqsa Mosque and build the 3rd temple. Then there will be a 3rd World War, I would say. So something has to happen there. Maybe earthquake. Something has to be happened. This didn't happen yet. We went through prophecies today, which happened already, but there are a lot of prophecies which not yet happened.
Okay, thank you very much, Rudy. And maybe one last question you have, if you have, maybe from Sri or Juan. If you have, you can say now. And if not, we will. Yeah.
Yes, Pabil. Sri.
Silakan.
Yeah. Well, that was amazing. I mean, that's if Pak Arman said he already knew some part of that, and that could be the new one for me, new information. And unfortunately, I also not good in geography as Justin. So that's
okay.
That makes me. I was thinking a lot about.
Russia is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking a lot about the presentation because so detailed. I mean, so detailed, and it's written also in the Bible. That's amazing. I mean, so but if I remember correctly, you just mentioned maybe just once about Jerusalem, but I mean, I read on the media right now, they mention that Israel and Palestine, they fight because the area. I mean, because the Jerusalem. Maybe in your next presentation, you probably will put the idea of
we
that.
cover everything.
Yes.
Don't worry.
Yes.
We have next or 3 presentation. It depends how far we go.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rudolf. And then
we will
I want to ask you. Yeah, I want to ask you about the fishermen. I think I missed some part of that, because you also mentioned about fishermen. I mean, on the Bible, fishermen.
Yeah.
But the fact,
it's on me. It's the Bible. I didn't mention.
Yes,
I didn't mention a lot of. I just wrote.
Yes, I mean in the Bible. Yeah, I know. I mean the
second,
Bible, and you also written on your
Yeah.
presentation on the slide about
Yeah,
fishermen.
I have it now.
Yes.
I have it now on the screen.
Yes,
I have it on the screen.
Thank you, Rudolf.
It's amazing, huh?
And,
it's amazing.
Yes, but I couldn't relate with the Israel, because I guess the area is covered by desert a lot, and how can you relate? I mean, how can with desert? It is right, desert and mountain.
It's desert, yeah.
Yes, so it's like no river a lot there. So
this is not Israel. This is where they are living now. This is outside. He wants to bring them back to Israel. Therefore, he will hunt them wherever they're living. I will go on every mountain on this earth, on every hill, and I will hunt you, and I will hunt you until you come back to Israel. That's the meaning.
Okay then. Okay, maybe.
It's not Israel. It's not Israel. No, right. The Israel don't want to go to Israel. Like the Arabs telling today, maybe you have all Indonesian background, and then maybe you, because Indonesia is the biggest Muslim country, maybe you learned in school, Israel was these bad guys which came and took everything away.
All right.
No Israeli wanted to go to Palestine. It was desert. They didn't want to go there. But the prophet in Jeremiah mentioned, and this is amazing. I mean, this Jewish woman, they said we get goosebumps at the read that. They didn't know about it. Okay, I will hunt you down where it's meaning wherever you're living. If you live in Switzerland, if you live in Prague, if you live in Argentina, if you live in Russia, I will hunt you until you return.
Okay.
I is God. God is speaking that, not me. And before there's a fisherman, that means it's softly, like I catch you. I want to seduce you to go back. But if you don't listen to me, I will start the hunting phase. And what the hunting phase means is, just look at the NS regime, Hitler. Hitler. He killed you, you run for your life, or I kill you. This is mean hunting phase.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I lost at that part, so so that's why I was thinking.
It's so much information.
Yeah.
I know. If you understand 10-20% of the information, it's already great effort, and therefore I give you later the presentation.
Yeah,
and then you can read it for yourself. You can go through that, and then for me, it's important that this information is spread. It's mentioned in the Bible for thousands of years, but I never saw a church to speak about it. Maybe Billy speaks about it regularly. Maybe some of you, Armand seems to have already some knowledge, but it's mostly, I think, of personal motivation because you're interested in the subject.
Yeah.
But in churches, it's not covered. Therefore, you need this movement to show you, because it's basically this is the difference. If they ask you, show me evidence that there's God existing. This is
that's right. That's right.
This is the prophecies. These are prophecies. This is every word is fulfilled. Everything. It's impossible to arrange it. How you want to do that? Show me another country.
Yeah, there are a lot of people argue about that. I mean, they need evidence and fact, and that's really sad if we don't know about that. So
exactly.
So thank you, Rudolf.
This is apologetics which we speak about. Sadly, the Christians forgot about it. You want, obviously you can get visions. God speak with visions to a lot of people. In the Arab countries, in Mecca, wherever, they get visions, and then they start to look at the internet, they start to read the Bible and whatever. This happened as well. Indonesia as well. God is working with a lot of methods. But like if somebody comes and say, oh, it's always like I told you before, all the sects and cults appeared like that too. Somebody came and say, if Billy comes tomorrow and say, don't read the Bible anymore, I have now direct revelation from God, you listen to me. Then you know you have to scream. Billy will never do that. But
of course.
Then you will, I know Billy, long time. He will never do that. But then, you know, the alarm bells should go on because it's about the Bible. And God told that he will not send any prophets anymore. We don't need them anymore because we have the Bible. We have everything. You have all the prophecies. If people complained 100, 200 years ago, there is no Israel 200 years ago. 100 years ago, there was no Israel. They could say, oh, look, the prophecies. What is the meaning? I don't understand it. It's all blur and nobody understands it. But we are living in the 21st century. We understand it now. If we read through that, we are shocked. We are shocked. You know, there's no excuse. You cannot say there is no God. There is no excuse. If you read that, you know there is a God because only he can write that. And Israel is obviously is about Ismail. We will go later next session about that. The basic problem with the Arabs, they don't care about Palestine. But obviously the basic problem is who is the promised son? Is Ismail or Isaac? Because from the promised son, the people will live in this country of Canaan. And that's all the fight about. And the Muslims are believe in power. The Israel believe normally in peace. So you can see like David, if you in Israel, if you drive to Israel, if you fly to Israel, you will never see a painting, as I know, with showing a war scene. Never. They don't show a sword. The most popular picture in Israel is David playing the harp. This means peace. On the Arab side, they like war. They want to show power. So the Muslim belief is power, because it's like ISIS, you know, if God is behind us, we will win. It's only about power. And they cannot believe that a small country of 9 million people surrounded by billions of people, big countries, how they can defend themselves. And then they see there's something not correct, but because they believe in power, so they are shocked. Because if their God is really living, Allah, then he would allow them to win against this country. But it's not working. So they are shocked. And God wants to show them that maybe they are finding the real God, going away from Muhammad. Yeah, that's the shocking part. But therefore, their hatred will be always there. It's not about the Palestine, which are living as refugees. These are small fishes, you know, they are nothing. It's about the system behind. Because like Qatar has so much money, they could next day they could give every Palestine a big house from gold. They could solve the problem easily. They could bring them to Qatar, they could solve the problem. It's the only area in the world where you have refugees in 60, 70 years, you know. But we'll go next time on detail on that one. The Arabs could solve that, but they don't want. They need some people which are willing to give their lives against Israel. And these are the Palestine. So you brainwash them, you punish them, you give them money if they kill a Jew, like the Abbas of the PLO, they have a list how much money you get if you kill the Jews. And if you die as martyr, you get even more, like $2,000 a month every family gets if you kill a Jew. There's a list. So they are very about that. Yeah? They want to kill them. And all this hatred is for nothing. It's the Arabs want it because they want to show that their God is living. It's about which God is the real God. Allah, God of Ismail, or God of Israel, or God of Isaac. Is Allah? Or Ismail. Yeah. Exactly. Or the God from the Bible. Yahweh.
Thank you very much, Rudy.
That's all about. That's all about. We are involved today in Palestine crisis, bombs, rockets. You know, it's getting complicated.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your sharing today, and we have a lot of insight from here. And as you have said, and it's really an evidence about the existence of God, and also this also show us that God is faithful to His promise, and the existence of Israel is also an important part, of our faith. It's a part of our how to say. So the existence of Israel shows that the Bible is true.
Yes.
The Bible is true.
So, you're absolutely right. If Israel is destroyed, there is no Jesus coming back.
Yeah.
If Israel would be destroyed before, there would be no Jesus coming on this earth as baby.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, I will come to that. Yeah, Demeter is reading here from Genesis. I have this on my presentations later. You take already everything now, one by one. All your questions will be answered, hopefully. Yeah? If not, we'll take care of it.
Okay, so
I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a little bit.
Of course.
Yeah, if your brain is smoking now, if your brain is like red, no problem. My one is the same, look the same, and it's normal. And I hope you memorize a little bit out of that. And very important, I share this message that is getting shared by you. So you have friends, you can bring it to them. You can bring it to Indonesia, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rudy. Yeah.
That's the target. Yeah.
We thank you so much, Rudy,
for
your kindness to share with us today. And unfortunately, because of the limit of hours, we have to divide it into 3 sessions. Yeah, probably 3 or 4. I will,
exactly. Yeah, 2 or 3 probably. If this topic, I mean, I can make you 50 sessions, but about other topics. But we still, it's an idea. If Billy is preaching you, and then from time to time you want to relax a little bit, then I take over for him. If it's okay for you, Billy. Because, like I told you, like around 1/3 of the Bible is about prophecies, and nobody knows about it. Yeah. Plus minus, that means it's amazing. It's amazing. Nobody speaks about that. Not even the Jews know that. Not even the Jews know that. It's like Arman, I think, asked before. Not even the Jews know that. The Orthodox, yes, but the Orthodox have their own problems. They're busy with themselves, following all the rules. Therefore, Jesus had always trouble with them because they can only walk. He could not make wonder on Shabbat. He could not make anything. They're always complaining. They're always busy with themselves, Billy. Nothing changed until today.
Okay, thank you again, Rudy, and also Devita. We thank you so much. And we will close our meeting today. And I will ask Mr. Arman to pray to close our live group today.
Okay, let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for everything that you given to us for today. Thanks for the lesson that we learned according your promise that you fulfill whatever you said, whatever you plan, that it will going to be happen. We thank you, Lord, that your time is short and coming soon. And we will enjoy with you and satisfied with you forever. We pray also for the Jews who doesn't believe in Jesus yet. We pray that through this condition, through their returning to Israel, they will see and understand about you, about the Bible, and believe in you and trust in you. We pray, Lord, and blessing our day today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Rudy.